It sounds weird, but often the fastest and most effective way for you to learn something is to teach it to other people. And this definitely works really well in a music context. So in this video, I'm going to explain why this is, and I'm going to give you some tips for how you can use it to boost your own learning. Hi friends, Mark Morley-Fletcher here, and welcome back to the channel. And this idea of teaching stuff to other people to learn it for yourself is not a new one, and it's got some great stuff backing it up. So for example, the Nobel Prize winning physicist Richard Feynman used to think that if he couldn't explain something to people at an undergraduate level, then it showed that he didn't really understand it himself. And I find this very much the case for me too. In fact, one of the reasons why I make these sort of YouTube videos is it helps my own learning. It helps me get really clear on what I know, what I don't know, and better at understanding the really important things. And I've seen this work with my students as well. So for example, I got an email just the other day from one of them which said, "A remark on teaching. I tried to explain the aims of your course to my wife. She's a professional musician and very aware of these issues. However, it was surprising how hard it was for me to articulate all kinds of aspects of your course. It made me aware that I have not yet fully internalized everything and prompted me to revisit some of the modules. But it also led to a great discussion in which she could share her ideas and strategies on this matter. So teaching is learning." Now, that email was specifically talking about what he'd learned in my Unlock Your Performance course, and that's one that deals particularly with the mindsets and mental skills that help you play your best music. But the points that he's making there apply to anything you learn in music, whether it's technical skills or theory or repertoire or all those sorts of things. Teaching it to someone else can really help. So why does this work so well to teach something to others? There's a number of different things going on here. And the first one is it helps you get really clear on the areas where you think you understand something, but you actually don't know it as well as you believe. So if we look at the comment in the email again, "It was surprising how hard it was for me to articulate all kinds of aspects of your course." Now, this shows that you can be ready to actually teach someone to pass things on to other people or use it yourself. And you believe inside that you know it well. It's not until you actually try and put it into words or communicate the ideas to someone else that you realize that you've just got this nebulous idea in your brain and it seems good to you, but as soon as you actually try and make it concrete, it's shaky. It's not as strong as you thought. And another thing that happens when you teach stuff to other people is that you have to put things into your own words. And this really deepens the learning that you have, because it's very easy to just read out what is there in a book or to parrot the exact words that someone has used to you to describe something. When you have to put it into your own words, that's, again, it requires deeper understanding. It requires you to really check that you do know what's going on and you're not just kidding yourself that you understand something because you're repeating something and thinking, yep, that makes sense. And a really important part of this as well is the fact that you're not just putting things into your own words. You're having to choose what are the really important things that I want to get across, the key concepts, and what are the concepts in there that are not so important, that are just minor details. So you're forced to really look at what's going on here and decide for yourself where the core learnings lie, how to express them in your own words, and how to get them across. And a further thing that happens when you share things with other people, when you teach them, is the feedback you get from them is going to help you learn things faster and deeper as well. So in some cases, it might be questions you get, things that you thought you've explained well, and it's clear that actually you're missing something, or there isn't something, it's not quite as clear as you thought. So questions you get, pushbacks that you get, maybe there are people asking, and what about something else that you hadn't thought of? So it widens the thing that you need to look at because you realize there's something important that you hadn't considered. And again, if you're discussing with people who know about these things, they might have their own ideas, their own take on it, and that might push you in different directions, and all of that can deepen your learning as well. And by the way, if you're finding what I'm sharing in this video useful, then please just take a moment and hit the like button. It means a lot to me, and it's really helpful for getting this video out to more people who might appreciate it. So what about the actual practical aspects of teaching things in order to learn them better? And the first question might be, well, what am I going to teach? And you can practice teaching anything. But the things that I would recommend are ideas that you have just learned, concepts about your technique, theory, all those sorts of things, stuff that you've just learned, fresh in your memory, and you think you've got it, can be a great check on how well you do. But actually, it's also a great way to go about actually learning something in the first place. Try and teach something as you go along. That will get you straight into the areas where you do understand it and you don't understand it. And that will really help you engage with that learning process. Learning is much more effective when we're not just mindlessly taking stuff in, we're actively engaging with it. And teaching something to someone else is very active. So if, as you're learning something, you're teaching it to someone else, then that's a really great way of making sure it goes in deep as you do it. So the next question then might be, well, who do you teach it to? And if you've got musicians on a similar level to you, that is, or maybe even not quite as advanced as you, who are interested in these things, that can be a great way to do it. So you've got someone who naturally wants to learn, and you can explain those ideas. You can go through it, whether you've just learnt it or as you're doing it, passing it on. You're helping them out, and maybe they'll do the same for you with some stuff they're learning, and you're deepening your understanding at the same time. But it doesn't have to be like that. If you haven't got suitable musicians to teach like that, don't worry. You can teach anyone, people who are much less advanced, maybe even people who aren't musicians at all. Remember what Richard Feynman used to say is that if he couldn't explain ideas to people who were much less advanced than him in physics, or maybe even people who didn't understand, who weren't experts in physics at all, that showed he didn't really understand it. So actually, it's a great exercise to try and explain something to a less advanced musician, to try and explain it to a family member or a friend who's maybe not a musician at all. And can you get the key points across? Because that's a really great check of whether you really understand something or whether you're just hiding behind technical detail and buzzwords. And finally, even if you don't have that, a great thing that you can do is write out what you're trying to teach as though it's for someone to read later. This is a fantastic exercise for getting your thoughts down on paper. It means you can do it without anyone to teach, but you are going through all the things that you would have to do to teach someone. So write that down. How would you explain it in writing? And then read it back and see, does this make sense to me? And again, Feynman used to do exactly this sort of thing. When he wanted to understand a physics proof that someone else had done that he was struggling to understand, he wouldn't just read it and say, do I understand it or don't I? He would go away, he would try and write out his own proof. And by trying to put things, as we said before, in his words, in writing, do it his own way rather than just check, can I understand something else? It's like, can I reproduce it anew from my own understanding? And if you can, then that is a really good check that you have got something deeply learned. And again, the act of doing that is really engaging with the material. So even if you are good, even if you write it down and you find, yes, I have learned this well, the actual act of doing it is going to deepen it. It's going to mean you recall it better in the future, and it's going to mean you understand it at a deeper level. Now, if you're interested in more about how to learn music effectively, you might want to check out my video on how to memorize music next. And if you like the special practice and performance tips that I only share with subscribers, then head on over to playinthezone.com and sign up for the emails. They're free. I've been Morley-Fletcher. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.